Here's $1,000. Just hold my hand. A story of unexpected connection. Thomas Brennan had everything money could buy. At 62, he'd built Brennan Technologies from nothing into a Fortune 500 company, corner office, vacation homes, a calendar filled with important meetings. But on this particular Thursday evening, standing in the hospital corridor, none of it mattered. His doctor had just delivered the news. Stage 3. Treatable, but the road ahead would be difficult. 6 months of chemotherapy starting next week. Thomas sat alone in the hospital cafeteria, coffee growing cold in his hands. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Around him, life continued. Families laughed, nurses chatted. But Thomas felt completely alone. He'd been divorced for 15 years. His 2 sons lived overseas, busy with their own lives. He had colleagues, business associates, acquaintances at the country club. But no one to call at 9 o'clock on a Thursday night to say, "I'm scared." "Excuse me, sir, is this seat taken?" Thomas looked up. A young woman in hospital scrubs stood there, maybe 25, with tired eyes and a gentle smile. Her name tag read, Elena Martinez, Patient Care Aide. "Please," Thomas gestured to the empty chair. Elena sat down with a heavy sigh, pulling out a sandwich from a paper bag. "Long shift," she said. "Sometimes I forget what my apartment looks like." Thomas managed a small smile. "Working late?" "Double shift. My mother's been sick, and the medical bills." Elena paused, seeming to catch herself. "I'm sorry. You don't need to hear about my problems. You look like you've got enough on your mind." Something about her kindness cracked something open in Thomas. "I just found out I have cancer," he heard himself say, the first time he'd spoken the words aloud. Elena set down her sandwich. She didn't offer platitudes or false optimism. She simply reached across the table and placed her hand over his. "I'm so sorry," she said quietly. "That's terrifying news to receive alone." Thomas felt tears prick his eyes. This stranger's simple gesture of compassion undid him in a way nothing else had. "I don't have anyone to—" He started, then stopped. "To hold your hand through it?" Elena finished gently. "I understand. My father went through treatment alone. I was just a kid, couldn't help much. I wish he'd had someone." They sat in silence for a moment, her hand still resting on his. "What if I hired you?" Thomas said suddenly. "Not as a nurse, just as company, someone to sit with me during treatments. I'll pay you $1,000 per session. You could help with your mother's bills." Elena pulled her hand back, studying him carefully. "Sir, I appreciate the offer, but I can't take money just for being kind." "It's not charity," Thomas said. "I'm a businessman. This is a transaction. I need something, and I'm willing to pay for it. You need something too. We can help each other." Elena was quiet for a long moment. "What you really need isn't someone you pay, it's a friend. And friendship can't be bought, Mr. Brennan." "Thomas Brennan." "Mr. Brennan, I'll make you a deal. I'll sit with you during your treatments, but not for money. You can make a donation to the hospital's financial assistance program instead, the one that helps families like mine. And in return, you just have to be honest with me. Tell me when you're scared. Let yourself be human." Thomas felt something shift in his chest. "Why would you do that?" "Because 6 months from now, when you're in remission, you're going to remember how it felt to go through this alone. And maybe, just maybe, you'll make sure other people don't have to feel that way." Elena smiled. "Besides, I have a feeling you've got some interesting stories from building your company I could use some wisdom about now." The first chemotherapy session was 2 weeks later. Elena sat beside Thomas, holding his hand when the nausea hit, distracting him with questions about his early business days, simply being present when words weren't needed. Between treatments, they met for coffee. Elena told him about her mother's recovery, her dream of becoming a nurse practitioner. Thomas found himself sharing things he'd never told anyone, his regrets about prioritizing work over family, His fear that he'd built an empire but forgotten to build a life. "It's not too late," Elena said one afternoon. "You're still here. That means you still have time to choose differently." She was right. Thomas started having lunch with employees he'd never spoken to. He called his sons, admitting he'd been a distant father and asking for a second chance. He established a foundation to help families facing medical hardship. 6 months later, Thomas's scans came back clear. He was in remission. He met Elena at their usual coffee shop to celebrate. "I've been thinking," he said, "that $1,000 per session I offered, you never let me pay you." "We had a deal," Elena reminded him gently. "We did, so I donated it all to the hospital fund. $50,000. Enough to help 50 families. Thomas paused. "But there's something else. The foundation I started needs a director. Someone who understands what it means to struggle, to sacrifice for family, to show up with compassion. I can't think of anyone better than you." Elena's eyes widened. "Thomas, I'm not qualified. You're the most qualified person I know. You taught me that money can't buy the things that matter most, but it can be used to create them." He smiled. "Besides, it comes with benefits that'll cover your mother's care and your tuition for that nursing degree." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did. You held my hand when I needed it most. Let me hold yours now." 5 years later, the Brennan Foundation had helped over 3,000 families. Thomas served as chairman, but Elena ran it with the same gentle wisdom she'd shown that night in the hospital cafeteria. And every Thursday evening, without fail, they still met for coffee. Not as employer and employee, not as benefactor and beneficiary. As friends. Because sometimes the greatest fortune isn't what we accumulate, but what we learn to give away. And sometimes the hand we reach out to hold is the one that ends up saving us. Or at the end,